Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the whole flock of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Got to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, the Most High, the Heavenly Father. His Hebrew name is Yahweh, not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahaya, not Allah. It's Yahweh. And his only begotten son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shai. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christos, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua. It's Yahweh Shai. So got to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rekah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who root well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all Israel, whether accepted or not. And a sincere salutation to all the Akim, pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four ends of the earth, the entire world, waking up the whole elect. And shalom to the Akwath who are listening and learning, that few sisters who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah from GMS Orlando Camp coming at you another lesson in true facts, faith, and edification, another daily edification, another Saturday edification. Lord willing be edifying. Terrors shall make them afraid on every side. Lord willing be edifying.
Good evening and welcome to the news on RT America. I'm Farron Franzak here in Washington, D.C. Well, I'll say it for all of us. What the hell is going on? The world is in shock. Many thought this would never happen.
Then I want to read this because many thought this would never happen. Well, the Lord already said it. He already said that these things is going to happen. This is Habakkuk chapter 1 in verse 5. It reads, Behold ye among the heathen, and regard and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days, but ye will not believe, though it be told to you.
Many of us were hopeful that world leaders would come to the table, practice diplomacy after preaching it day in and day out, all to avoid where we are right now. I'm going to be real and honest with you, and I will be remiss to go after the mainstream media every time they're wrong, so here I am. I was wrong. Many of us were wrong. Nobody wants war. Who wants to see and watch people get killed? No one. But tonight we're going to break this all down and look at the facts and look at what's being said from both sides.
Nah, she said, who wants war? Well, when you read Exodus 15 and 3, because they don't know the Lord, man. That's why the Lord said his name going to be known in that day. And the world going to know that the power of Yahweh Shema Shai, that the power of Yahweh Shema Shai has always been around. And he's closing it in, man. That you may know that this power, the things that goes on in the earth is from on high, man. This is Exodus 15 and 3. The Lord Yahweh is a man of war. The Lord Yahweh is his name. When you get Isaiah 42 and 13, it reads, The Lord Yahweh Shema Shai shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. This is what's going on. He's stirring up jealousy. He shall cry, yea, roar. He shall prevail against his enemies. I have long time holding my peace. I have been still and refrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. So what we see going on is the Heavenly Father Yahweh, through his only begotten son Yahweh Shai, roaring in the earth, man. Let's run this back. Let's run this back.
The news on RT America. I'm Farron Franzak here in Washington, D.C. Well, I'll say it for all of us. What the hell is going on? The world is in shock. Many thought this would never happen. Many of us were hopeful that world leaders would come to the table, practice diplomacy after preaching it day in and day out, all to avoid where we are right now. I'm going to be real and honest with you, and I will be remiss to go after the mainstream media every time they're wrong, so here I am. I was wrong. Many of us were wrong. Nobody wants war. Who wants to see and watch people get killed? No one. But tonight we're going to break this all down and look at the facts and look at what's being said from both sides. My questions tonight will be tough, but there's two sides, the West and the East. The West, led by the Biden administration, calls this an invasion. The Kremlin calls this military operations. Here's what we do know, though, folks. President Biden has slapped more sanctions on Russia.
I just spoke with the G7 leaders this morning, and we're in full and total agreement. We will limit Russia's ability to do business in dollars, euros, pounds, and yen to be part of the global economy. We'll limit their ability to do that. We're going to stunt the ability to finance and grow the Russian military. We're going to impose major, and we're going to impair their ability to compete in high-tech 21st century economy. We've already seen the impact of our actions on Russia's currency and the ruble, which early today hit its weakest level ever in history.
Now, the president also went on to say that the United States will not send troops to Ukraine.
Although we provided over $650 million in defensive assistance to Ukraine just this last year, let me say it again. Our forces are not and will not be engaged in the conflict with Russia in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies and reassure those allies in the East.
See, what just happened is, you got to understand, first and foremost, the elites control everything that goes on both sides of the war, man. Okay? Everything is controlled by these devils. The elites, man. Okay? They fund both sides of any war, man. Everything that goes on is funded by them. So what the end all be all is to bring everybody to what? To one world government together, man. Everybody be on one page. Because the scriptures say in 1 Thessalonians 5:3, let's read that. See, they set up these things. This is just another, just like the pandemic, it's just another game. This is a game, man. These devils is trying to deceive the people, right? 1 Thessalonians 5:3 reads, for when they shall say peace and safety, right? Then sudden destruction comes upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So, it's going to be an event that got to happen that's going to make them come together and say, we have put together world peace. We are all on one accord. This is a game, man. Now you telling me, so Putin, Biden selling wolf tickets, and Putin bought it, man. Now he's saying they ain't sending no troops. They not finna defend Ukraine. Of course you ain't. Because prophecies say, Yahweh Shema Shah say, I will put hooks into thy jaws and turn thee back to what? Turn Russia back to what? To the Soviet Union, man. Ukraine was a part of the old Soviet Union, man. See, these things is a game. That's why Elder Apostle Gabar said, hey, don't get excited, man. Don't get excited yet, man. Because they got to create whatever event it is. It's going to be a major event that's going to make them say, we have came to a head and it's going to be all peace on the earth. This part of prophecy. You heard what this devil just said? We ain't finna defend Ukraine. Listen.
As I made crystal clear, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory with the full force of American power.
Now, the president did take questions at the...
Now, hold on, because we got to play that again. At the beginning of what he said, let's run it back.
Will not send troops to Ukraine.
Although we provided over $650 million in defensive assistance to Ukraine just last year, let me say it again. Our forces are not and will not be engaged in the conflict with Russia in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies and reassure those allies in the East.
See? So what is he saying? That Ukraine ain't an ally? What is he saying? You see this, man? This is confusion to the world, man. What Biden was doing was selling wolf tickets, so it seemed like that to the world. But this is a part of their agenda, man. Remember, this is a part of their agenda, man.
As I made crystal clear, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory with the full force of American power.
Now, the president did take questions at the end of his speech. He was asked about China and India in particular and where those countries stood. He said he's not ready to answer about China and that they're speaking with India. Picking up the story now is RT's Alex Mihailovich.
It is a move that has stunned nations around the globe. But according to Russian President Vladimir Putin, his country had little choice but to act.
Вот это самое главное, чтобы было понятно.
Most importantly, it is to make things clear. Everything that is happening is a forced measure. We were left with no chances to do it differently. Safety risks were such that it was impossible to respond with different measures. All attempts led to nothing. Nothing. Frankly speaking, I'm very surprised that we didn't improve an inch in any matter.
In recent weeks, the US and some of its NATO allies openly sent weapons to Ukraine while training that country's forces. This is in addition to years of such actions, even though Ukraine is not a NATO member. And last month, during talks in Geneva between the US and Russia, Washington made it clear that it was not willing to put a halt to NATO's eastward expansion along Russia's borders, saying that NATO's open-door policy for new members has always been fundamental to the alliance. NATO has echoed that statement, with Ukraine at the center of the issue. While the West kept mentioning diplomacy, evidently, it was not prepared to take Russia's security concerns into consideration. That has led to this. And while Russia is on the offensive, it says it is doing everything it can to avoid unnecessary casualties.
Let me once again stress that Russian armed forces strikes do not target Ukrainian cities or military garrison social facilities, namely the homes of officer corps, residential buildings and barracks, to avoid casualties among the Ukrainian servicemen and their family members.
The military operation has been condemned by Ukraine's leadership and NATO members, with Kiev cutting ties with Moscow as a response. However, Russia has said that it is willing to talk. According to Kremlin Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov, President Putin has expressed his preparedness to engage in discussions with his Ukrainian counterpart, with a focus on obtaining a guarantee of neutral status and the promise of no weapons on its territory. Peskov said, the president formulated his vision of what we would expect from Ukraine in order for the so-called red line problems to be resolved. This is neutral status, and this is a refusal to deploy weapons. Peskov added that the Russian president gave assurances that Moscow would only engage if the leadership of Ukraine is ready to talk about it. The Kremlin press secretary suggested that if Kiev were to agree to meet the demands, the current military attack on Ukraine could be called off. For News on RT America, I'm Alex Mihailovich.
Joining us now to break down this whole day of escalation, we are joined by former Pentagon official Michael Maloof, RT senior writer Nebojsa Malic, and author and professor Peter Kuznick. Gentlemen, thank you all for talking to me on kind of a rough day for all of us. But, Neb, I want to start with you. The Kremlin's rhetoric has been no war, and I think we can kind of all say none of us really saw this much of it coming. Neb, why now?
I think at this point, the red line that President Putin quoted in his speech in the early hours that caught a lot of people off guard was President Zelensky's reference during the Munich Security Conference of willingness of Ukraine to acquire nuclear weapons. He literally named that as the red line. That this is even tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine's possession would be a strategic threat to Russia, is what he said. I don't know for a fact that this was the tipping point, but that certainly seems to be the key difference between this week and previous events between Kiev and Moscow. And this whole development with Moscow's offer of terms, actually President Zelensky just a few minutes ago gave his own statement saying that he's prepared to discuss this, but he's disappointed that NATO countries are refusing to give Ukraine security guarantees, which he said he would require in order to come to terms.
Right. Now, Professor Kuznick, you said on this show the other night when President Putin signed the decree granting Donetsk and Lugansk independence, you disagreed with Putin. Is this what you saw coming?
This is a very, very sad day for Em. I was hoping against hope that this was not what was coming. I see what Russia did, what Putin did as a moral outrage, a humanitarian disaster, a violation of international law. As much as I hated the wars that the United States has engaged in, the wars of aggression in Afghanistan and Iraq and Libya and elsewhere, Vietnam, the war of my generation, this is appalling to me. And I did not really think that Russia was going to fall to this level. I feel in some ways like the people who were writing in 1913 and 1914 and arguing that a world war is impossible because civilization is just too advanced. Humanity's too advanced. And to see this happening now, after all of our efforts for months to make sure this wouldn't happen, is very, very depressing indeed.
You know,
The Lord said, this is Habakkuk 1:5. Behold ye among the heathen, and regard, and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days, which ye would not believe, though it be told to you. Now, they're not listening to the messengers, to the prophets of Yahweh Shemawashah, the prophets and the messengers of Yahweh Shemawashah. But it was already told to you, man. It's told. You shouldn't be appalled or whatever he said. The Lord said it, man. And like they say in Matthew 16, in Matthew 16, hey, that's why, hey, 2/3 of Jake gonna get destroyed, man, because they don't believe the message. We know the heathen's gonna die. We talking about Israelites, so-called Negro, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians gonna get put to death 2/3 because they don't believe the messengers. This is Matthew 16:4. A wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. What does that mean? That means the messengers. The messengers, man. Amos chapter 3:6, it reads, shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord, Yahweh Shemawashah, has not done it? What's going on? It's the will of the Lord, man. Right? What did it say in Psalm 68:20? From the Lord belong the issues of death. Right? In 1 Thessalonians and 1 Samuel 2:3, what did it say? Let's get that real quick. 1 Samuel 2:3 reads, talk no more so exceedingly proudly. Let not arrogancy come out of your mouth. For the Lord, Yahweh Shemawashah, is a power of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. So everything that goes on in the earth is what? Actions weighed by the Heavenly Father Yahweh through his only begotten Son Yahushua, man. So Amos 3:7, it reads, surely the Lord, Yahweh Shemawashah power, will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. The prophecy is going on. They just don't like the messages. They just don't like the messengers. Who's giving the prophets? Who's giving the prophecy? Salaki. They don't like the messengers. Who's giving the prophecy, man? But scriptures say it's going to come by his messengers.
You brought up other wars like of American aggression. Mr. Maloof, I want to turn to you because President Biden, as you heard, said that they are not going to send troops to Ukraine. A lot of Americans like myself are still haunted by the lies of 2003. I had a lot of friends that went into Iraq and Afghanistan at that time. Suddenly we're being fed all of this information. So how do we know that we can believe the State Department and the Pentagon when they have lied to us before?
Well, that's really shocking.
Yeah, this is Job 13 and 4. This is beautiful. We in some beautiful times, man. Kal halal wa hawa la Yahweh ba'ashim al man. It's Job 13 and 4. But ye are forgers of lies. Ye are all physicians of no value. They are forgers of lies, man. This is what they do. So now what we seeing going on is children shall complain of ungodly fathers. They've been lied to, man. You have been duped.
Okay, but in this case, in the case of Ukraine, it's not a member of NATO, so there's no obligation. However, it doesn't preclude U.S. and other NATO countries from supplying weapons, which they were doing. In doing that, it built up a false confidence, I think, in the Ukraine leadership that NATO countries would have its back, and that's why they basically ignored, along with NATO itself and the U.S. especially, the security concerns by Mr. Putin. It was the United States that was driving this train all along, and they basically told Ukraine, "Don't worry about Minsk II," even though Ukraine signed it, and that was they had provisions there that Mr. Putin was insisting on that be adhered to, and after tremendous negotiation to nowhere with Blinken, I think they concluded that there was no other choice because of the encroachment of NATO and in violation of other agreements. Now, all of the agreements, I counted 6 agreements over time that were made to give assurances for what they call the indivisibility of East and West. In other words, you don't increase the security of one side, the East or the West, at the expense of the East. And that was obliterated. And they were just agreements, but being just agreements, they were not treaties, and they were made to be broken. And just like...
Hey, what Esau do? They he break. This is Psalms 55 and 20, and it reads, "He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant." The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawing swords. Which was what these devils did when they came over here. These conquistadors and Spaniards came over here to Gad, Reuben, and Issachar, man. Right? Also, when Cristobal Colon landed in the islands to Ephraim, Simeon, and the rest of the northern kingdom, right? These devils, you heard what he just said? They are made to be broken. Let's play it again.
Or the West at the expense of the East. And that was obliterated. And they were just agreements, but being just agreements, they were not treaties, and they were made to be broken. And just like the agreement that Clinton made on nukes. It was an agreement, but that went away too, and so there was no guarantees as such.
Now, when you're talking guarantees, the president was asked if Russia was going to go beyond Ukraine, and he didn't answer it. What do you think Biden knows or doesn't know, or do you think he thinks that Putin will go beyond?
No,
what happened is Biden was selling wolf tickets, and Putin bought it, man. Biden was selling wolf tickets, and Putin bought the tickets, man. Hey, because I put it in the chat some weeks ago when the oligarchy of Russia told Putin, listen, we got everything to lose in this, man. So Putin said he have nothing to lose by taking Ukraine back, man. The oligarchy, which is the ones that put him where he's sitting at, man. The oligarchy of Russia is the ones that control the money, man. They got the bag. And they told him, if you let them cross that red line, we have everything to lose in this. So while Biden's selling wolf tickets, you always got some nigga talking about he can whoop anybody. He'll beat up anybody. Then when somebody come in front of him and say, oh yeah, guess what? Some other guy gonna try you, man. And he gonna buy your tickets, man. And he gonna see where you at. Then that nigga was talking about he'll whoop anybody. Talking about, nah, I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? Let's just call a peace deal and go on. But nah, you was selling no wolf tickets. What it do? Well, that's that bear coming against this eagle, man. What it do? You selling wolf tickets? I want to buy one. Now these niggas talking about they backing up. Of course you is. The Lord prophecies say that Russia is that man.
I think because they border Russia, and because there are so many ethnic Russians in those three countries of the Baltic countries, I think they're concerned that he may attempt something. Mr. Putin is too smart to do that. He knows about Article 5 of NATO, which says, an attack on one is an attack on all. And he's not going to do that. I can envision him doing other things, but not that.
To be fair, we thought this wasn't going to happen. It did. We don't know.
Well, it was inevitable. I saw it coming. I even predicted it.
Now, Professor Kuznick, you're a history professor. Many in the mainstream media, they're saying this is very reminiscent of World War II. Your thoughts?
Well, the big difference is that Putin, despite the rhetoric that we're hearing, is not Hitler. We hear so much of this Munich analogy, saying that we can't compromise because that would be appeasement. And we saw what Hitler did. We gave him some, and he took more and more and tried to take the. That is an argument in certain circles in the West that Putin would try to do the same thing. That's crazy. And the more we define this in absolutist moral terms, the less room there is for diplomacy, for compromise, for negotiating. Even now, we can avert the worst kind of disaster, but we need to immediately begin diplomacy. Putin now has said that he will talk to Zelensky on Putin's terms. Zelensky had been asking for meetings with Putin before that, and Putin ignored him. But they better start talking now, and we better get everybody off these absolutist positions while there's still time. And this is not only dangerous within the confines of Ukraine and a humanitarian disaster potentially in Ukraine, but the spillover effects, the possibility for further aggression, as we were talking about, is really something very real and palpable, and something that the world cannot risk at this point.
You bring up a good point of Zelensky and Putin talking, but there also was a meeting, Neb, scheduled today between Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, and his counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. That didn't happen. When you look at all the players, you've got NATO, you've got the U.S., you've got Putin, you got Biden, you got Ukraine. Neb, who do you think kind of bears a lot of the weight in this?
It's very easy to try to ascribe blame to a single faction. Obviously, President Putin's responsible for ordering the troops in. Ukraine is responsible for bombing its own people for 8 years and refusing to negotiate in good faith, bad faith, or any faith. The U.S. is responsible for installing a coup regime in Ukraine in the first place back in 2014 and propping it up with weapons and support since then. Something that Professor Kuznick said resonated with me. I lived on the street where World War I started. Wow. I grew up steeped in history, and World War I is one of those things that everybody said it's not possible, nothing would happen, and then within a space of a month, all of these great empires of the world ended up sucked into a vortex of their own making, and after that, nothing was ever the same. And everybody thought, oh, well, Germany's got my back, said Austria-Hungary. Russia's got our back, said Serbia. England's got our back, said France. And millions and millions of lives later and 4 years of muddy trenches and revolutions, everything had just gone up in flames and into dust. And I do think that the priority right now, before we start assigning blame here or there, is making sure this doesn't spiral into World War III.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Nebojsa Malic, Michael Maloof, and Professor Peter Kuznick.
Well, World War III will happen, man. Okay? World War III will happen. Let me get a couple of these precepts and I'm finna close. So, this is Job 18:11. It reads, terrors shall make him afraid on every side. and shall drive him to his feet. When you go to the NLT version, right, about with the Job 18:11, it said terrorists surround him, right? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get it in the blue letter, because one of the words for drive means to scatter. So let's get this real quick. This is in the blue letter. That word drive. Now I want to act funny. Okay, so this is Job 18:11. That word drive. We're gonna look at that word drive real quick. So it say, terror shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. Right. So the word drive.
Strong's 86327. Poots.
It said to scatter, be dispersed, be scattered. Right? To be dispersed, be scattered. It say to shatter, to dash to pieces. That word drive. Right? It said terror shall make him afraid on every side. And it say terror shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. Right? Mean what? To dash to pieces. You see? This is going on. To disperse, spread abroad, break to pieces, shake to pieces, dash to pieces, retired. Retired meaning what? Being destroyed, man. Cold. So, this is Revelation chapter 9. In verse 12 it reads, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. Revelation 11:14 reads, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe coming quickly. But as it says in 1 Thessalonians 5:3, that they shall seek peace and safety. Right? So it gotta be an event that's gonna happen that's gonna make them bring this one world government, this one world order, right? Out of many one. Right? Something got to happen that's going to bring them to come to a point, and it's going to be all over the news. Yeah, we have came to agreement, world peace. We all on one accord, and that's when destruction going to happen, man. But you see what's going on. As she said at the beginning, which I want to play. I'm going to close on this. What did she say? Let's play it again. Cause see, Jake don't understand what's going on, man. Neither do they care. Jake don't care what's going on. So let's play this.
The news on RT America. I'm Farron Franzak here in Washington, D.C. Well, I'll say it for all of us. What the hell is going on? The world is in shock. Many thought this would never happen. Many of us were hopeful that world leaders would come to the table, practice diplomacy after preaching it day in and day out, all to avoid where we are right now.
Didn't the Lord say, when you read in Daniel, right? This is Daniel chapter 2. This is Daniel 2 in verse this is Daniel 2 in verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, far as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdue all things. But what it said, the word drive said what? In Job 18:11, it's going to break them in pieces, man. Because this is what they have done to all these nations. It say, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, which was the Roman Empire. It say, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdue all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes. What's the feet and toes of the statue? It's Babylon the Great, man. The revised Roman Empire, North America. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. You see? But there shall be in it of strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet, were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seeds of men. Who is talking about the they? It's talking about the Edomites shall mingle themselves with the other 16 heathen nations. They shall mingle themselves with the seeds of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with miry clay. You see? But what it says in 2 Ezra 11:39, it say, are not thou it the remainders of the fourth beast, whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them? The Lord was edifying. I gotta give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashim Awashah, Bahashim, Rekah Kodash, the bonus to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, whether accepted or not. And a sincere salutation to all the occupants pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, waking up the hopeful elect. Shalom to the Awad who are listening and learning. You few sisters who are listening and learning. Lord, when it's edifying, till next time I say, Shalom, Wa Abba Ball. The water for tuning in. May Yahweh Shema shall continue to bless you in your houses. Stay prayed up. Shalom.